You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the April 2024 regular council meeting for the Municipal District of St. Stephen. I'm Florence Mitchell.
And I'm Vicki Hogarth. In today's meeting, Jim Stewart, Executive Director of Neighborhood Works, will make a presentation to Council. Under Bylaws, Council will move to give Bylaw 05-23-3 a bylaw to amend Council Procedure Bylaw 05-23 its second and third readings by title.
Council will move to give Bylaw Z-3-03 a bylaw to amend Zoning Bylaw Z-3 its first reading by title and to set a date of May 29th for a public hearing. Council will also move to forward the draft bylaw to the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee for their written views.
Under new business, Council will move to approve the purchasing card policy as presented. Council will also move to delegate the authority to waive interest charges on utility accounts to different parties based on the amount.
Council will move to agree to the installation of used needle receptacles in key locations in the municipality, that Mayor McEachern follow up with MLA Kathy Baucus to discuss funding availability to support the program, and that administration prepare a draft program brief for consideration at the May Committee of the Whole meeting.
Finally, Council will move to approve a community grant for the St. Stephen Rural Cemetery in the amount of $3,000. Now let's join Council in the Moosehead Room at the Garceland Civic Center in St. Stephen.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Municipal District of St. Stephen Council agenda, Wednesday, April 24th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered today on the ancestral unceded territory of the Passamaquoddy peoples. And we'll start with, need a mover and seconder for the agenda for the regular council meeting on April 24th, 2024, be approved.
So moved.
Councillor Wright.
Second.
Councillor Eastman. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, thank you. Any conflicts of interest this evening? Seeing none. Okay. Take a mover and seconder for the minutes of the special council meeting held on April 17th, 2024. Be approved as presented. Councillor Harding, Councillor Heislip. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I'll take another mover and seconder for the minutes of the regular council meeting held on March 27th, 2024, be approved as presented.
So moved.
Councilor Eastman?
Second.
Councilor Cornish? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. And, okay, public delegations. Jim Stewart from Neighborhood Works. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. So I am going to read a brief statement only because I want to keep as many emotions out of it as possible. So let me put on my eyes. So good evening, thank you for adding me to the agenda. I want to first by saying thank you to the council for their support to NWI over the years and hopefully in the future. We want to also thank you for investing again this year to create a multicultural service hub for this community in Charlotte County that was voted on March 27th. I asked for this opportunity to address some of the comments that were made by council members during March 27th public meeting, and I will address this to the council and not individuals. So talking about the funding proposal the council was voting on had nothing to do with the warming center. And I thank those that were trying to make that clear at that meeting. There was a proposal that was put forth here a couple of years ago, again, that many councils talked about. And I know we get a lot of confusion over unsheltered and everything else that neighborhood work is trying to do. So I just want to make that clear. So really the discussion, in my opinion, shouldn't have been around a warming center. It should have been around the proposal itself. So also when the council states that it is off the rails of what this space was meant to be, NWI and the working group presented a viable plan in October, which appeared supported by council. That did not happen. When the state of emergency was declared, NWI reached out to the mayor and offered to open a 24-hour drop-in center if funding could be secured by the province, which it was. NWI did not receive any objections from the council. When the plan was put on, when the plan was put on pause, NWI set up cots. Again, council did not express any objections. We are here as a direct result of non-action, not because NWI wanted to host an out of the cold at 59 Union. It was done because there was no other option. It was the right thing to do. Have there been significant challenges? Absolutely, always around. When the council expresses concerns about what the community is witnessing, I say, again, had the initial plan been adopted, there would have been only one way in, one way out, and an 8-foot high fence around the perimeter. About gains, council is correct in some of those we serve moving out of addictions and into recovery, finding housing and employment. I also agree that after all the work that has been done since last August by so many individuals, and some of them are those around the table here today, there is no solution for next year, and that is a sad situation. Hopefully, like this year, winter does not take us by surprise. I know no one's expecting winter again next year. That seems to be the theme. Also, it is our opinion at Neighborhood Works that it's unethical, immoral, and inhuman to suggest locking individuals who are struggling in an institution. When the council addressed the sale of the property at 59 Union Street, what it was intended for, it was intended for exactly what we are doing, to carry on what churches and faith-based institutions have done for centuries, give comfort to those in need. It was sold as is, with no restrictions, contrary to the original purchase agreement. The concession that I will give is it was not intended to be a shelter, however temporary, and we did tell our neighbors in the community that that was the case. And today I want to thank the community for their patience, support, and perseverance. When the council stated they want to know what recipients of council's funds do with the money and there should be a reporting back mechanism, I absolutely agree. All funds that we get from all sources, we have a reporting process to give back. So what I would say to that is all funds raised are in a building account at the Royal Bank. Whatever this council would like for accountability from NWI, I would be glad to provide. So lastly, and this is where you fellows can make a decision if you so desire. I've spoken to my board, and NWI will allow this council to decide if this municipality wants NWI to continue with assisting those that are homeless and finding solutions to create supportive housing. If not, you don't want us to continue with that, we will walk away from that and we will continue our work through our outreach program. If so, we require your support moving forward and would ask for a council member to sit at the table as we work collaboratively with the province to create a sustainable and long-term solution. Again, thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to working collaboratively with the future, or with the council in the future if you so wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Neighborhood Works, for stepping up when you did. I know it has been a contentious issue, as we all witnessed, but we do appreciate what you've done. And yes. All right, thanks. Okay, I need a mover and seconder for the report of the Chief Administrative Officer be acknowledged and received. Councilor Islip, Councilor Harding. Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Oh, yeah, we can. I was thinking never mind.
Might say no, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I just, a lot of stuff going on here, guys. It's a rough old go here. All right. Floor is yours, Jeff.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not a problem at all. Tried to give you a quite comprehensive report here for this month's meeting. A couple of things that I want to note. In item 2, regarding the request for proposal on the financial services review, Mr. Tozer and I went over the questions, because the period for questions from proponents expired. Got the responses posted as an addendum, which is good. One of the things that both Mr. Tozer and I agreed to was one of the proponents had asked if we could shift the submission deadline by a week in order to give a little bit more time for submissions to come in. We reviewed the overall schedule and we're comfortable with that it wouldn't negatively impact on the overall project. So we'd agreed to do that. So some of the dates there, for the most part, if you move them all by 7 days, there's a couple dates that are a little bit different based on our council schedules, but if you add 7 days to most of those dates, you'll see the new timeline that we've agreed to. But we've got, we had 4 major firms that sent questions in for clarification, which is a good sign in the early stages, and we had a lot more than that pulled the RFP information out of the MBON website that we use for tendering. So we are hoping that we are going to get a number of proposals in by the revised deadline that we'll be able to evaluate and bring forward a recommendation on when the time comes. Also just wanted to highlight my discussions. We talked briefly last time we met with the mining recorder's office. Had really good discussions with the representatives of the department about the process. We are going to need to work on how we are going to design a program for issuing consent for destructive work. I've got the manager's recorder's office is good enough to share with me the program, or how how Woodstock is approaching theirs. They're a little bit further ahead in the process than we are, so we can learn from what they've put together. So they're good enough to share that with us. And I've also had another call from another mining exploration company that's working in our area. And I've got 2 in-person meetings set up with a couple of the firms that are working in our area. So starting to build those relationships with the firms that are out there. And as we all find our new way with the expansion of the municipal boundaries, picking up areas that these guys weren't actually in municipal boundaries before. But all the discussions have been very positive. As my report says, I had a really good discussion with the miner recorder's office about hosting an information session style meeting, because I've had the privilege of working with mining recorder's offices in the past, in my past employment. So I had some foundational stuff, but even the nuances, I've learned a lot just in our hour and a half long Teams call that we had. And I think there's a lot of good information there for the citizens to understand as far as their rights as a property owner, what the process looks like, the different steps and the different approvals that are required by the exploration companies, and to get that not through a third party like us, but actually to get it directly from the mining recorder's office folks, and possibly have some of the exploration representation at the meeting as well. And another key feature we talked about was having the e-claims website where any citizen can go and see if they're what's impacting their property and the types of claims that are there. But having computers set up in the room on the side so that we can, if people aren't comfortable with computers, we can walk them through that and show them what is out there and what they may be have on their property that they don't realize. So they were open to that. They wanted to talk. It's not a type of outreach that they've done historically. So they wanted to go back and have a little chat with their managers and things like that. But I think they were smiling on the idea anyway. So hopefully we'll keep working towards that type of scenario for our citizenry. We are a hotspot in the province for exploration. There's up north in Bathurst area, and there's down here just north, just in the northern part of our area. There are two of the key areas in the province. So we should become educated and have our citizens become educated as much as we can facilitate. So working on that. And the rest of it, I did put a small summary in for our executive assistant, who's been very busy during this reporting period as well. Unfortunately, she's not able to attend this evening's meeting, but I am very happy to inform council that yesterday I was able to clear Ms. Caswell through her probationary review and everything, and because it's been excellent having her in the office, and my thoughts are with her this evening as she's dealing with a personal matter right now. But with that, I think I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Just on the responses from the policing priorities, is there a way, like we've all read them, but would there be a way we could get a quick summary so they were bucketed and then we could get a report back from the results of the meeting as to what the RCMP took away as their policing priorities for the next year?
So you're just looking for us to do a summary of the responses we got, and yeah, okay.
Just a summary so you don't see exactly who they're from, but then obviously there was 3 or 4 policing priorities that would have been decided on at the meeting that the RC had, so it'd be nice to know what those actually were. Sure. What they
sure, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We'll do a little feedback loop with the information that was shared. It was really nice to get that feedback from the public. The alertable system did a good job, I think, getting the word out there. So yeah, we can probably once Celeste is back in the saddle here, I'll get her working on that summary document.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Heislip.
More of a comment. I just want to send my appreciation for the meeting with Canada First Basketball. I think it went well. Glad the mayor and Jeff attended, and I think that moving forward there's going to be better communication there. Obviously, it seemed to be a very productive meeting, and looking forward for some more, and because that's a very important project for the town. So I just want to thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. All right. We had a mover. We had a seconder. And no more questions. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. The report of the Chief Administrative Officer be acknowledged and received. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Next up is public comment period. Oh. Hi. Welcome. You get through?
I'm just going to put my glasses on. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm just here to make a few comments to council about the sharp disposal boxes that I hope you will consider when making a decision on whether to implement the program or not. At the last COW or council meeting, I can't remember which, there was a lengthy discussion around the new information center with regards to where it would go and what it should look like. There was another lengthy discussion around unsightly properties and the length of the grass. It appears council is trying very hard to ensure that the appearance of our community is what we want to project not only to tourists but to the residents as well. So thank you for that. If these disposable boxes are installed in public places, such as the walking trail or the Garcelon Center, or any public property like the library, ask yourself what kind of perception do you think the visitors, new prospective residents, or new businesses looking to start up here would have on this town. In Appendix 4 on page 89 of this agenda, Toronto and Vancouver are being referenced. We are not a city like St. John or Fredericton, so I'm wondering why this administration is not looking at smaller cities to see how they're handling sharps. I did a bit of research myself, and municipalities such as ours have the sharp disposal boxes at local pharmacies, health centers, treatment centers, and places such as Neighborhood Works. The boxes are not located in family-oriented public places or in public outdoor spaces. Lastly, if council does not have the statistics available on the volume of sharps found in public or in private property, which is on page 83 of the agenda, then how can council justify the cost of the implementation and upkeep of the program? Thank you for listening to me. Have a good evening.
So yeah.
Not regarding that, but just my own public.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant to say announce your name before you speak. So I'm sorry I missed that on our first guest, but that's fine.
Sorry, Mrs. Morgan.
Mrs. Morgan. Okay. Thank you.
Chandra Best from Ward 3. So I just want to touch on a couple of items in the agenda package. The first one on page 14, the CAO's report regarding the meeting with the Mining Recorder's Office. So I was really happy to see that meeting took place, and the additional comments that we heard today from Jeff all sound very, very positive. I have to tell you that when I left the Committee of the Whole meeting 2 weeks ago, after I believe it was BRW did their presentation, the first thing that I did when I went home is look at the Expropriation Act, because everything sounds well and good and everything looks really nice on paper, but I always go to, okay, where are my rights and how are we going to make sure that we protect them? So I'm really glad to hear that there's a plan in place already for building relationships and all of that. And I just trust and hope that council will have our back. And I trust and hope that residents will really pay attention in this regard. In case you haven't heard, there have been expropriations already in New Brunswick. There's one happening right now in St. John of a fellow who's losing his home because they're going to build a school. So it actually happens, and we have to think about it, plan for it. The fellow last time said that we're like 10, 20 years away from that. Who knows? But I don't think that we should just rest on our laurels and think everything's fine because the government says it's fine and these organizations say it's fine. I think we should be prepared. So I'm happy with what's going on right now, but I'm already thinking ahead and looking and trying to cover my back and, you know, all the people in that ward or that area. The other thing I wanted to touch on had to do with, I think Councillor Greenlaw already brought it up about all the submissions around the policing priorities. So I'm really glad to hear that we can get a summary. That's excellent. I'd like to know what was brought forward. I'd also like to know how do we find out what the strategic priorities for the Regional Service Commission will be. I didn't ever see them from last year, and I know that you sit on that committee, Mayor McEachern, so I'm wondering if sometime we'll hear about that. If you ever provide a report on your work at the Regional Service Commission. I've watched some of their videos and, you know, trying to understand what's going on over there too. But I do have a keen interest in what they're up to and how that's going to play out. So something maybe that you could bring forward or just a thought or a request. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this has to do with the report on page 59, and I forget what it's called actually. It's by Xander, and he's doing the planning report. It does reference building that's going to take place, and it mentions that this is going to be deeply affordable housing. My thoughts on that would be that I would really appreciate that kind of like a definition in the material so that I don't have to go looking for what does deeply affordable mean. And I also think it's a really good idea if the proper acts, like the Community Planning Act, are included in that material, as well as the regulation is put in there, which is the statement of public interest regulation, and also refer to what is in the document around statement of public interest, which is, in this regard, planning is statement of public interest on settlement patterns. And I think that we all should be thinking about what that exactly means going forward. So my recommendation and request going forward would be that the documents be very thorough and well articulated so that we understand when we look at the material what exactly is being spoken about. And then lastly, I do want to talk about Councillor Cornish and Councillor Rodas provided a really nice report. I mean, everyone's reports are excellent. I love them, and I read them quite closely to see what everybody's up to and where I might be able to look for other opportunities to become involved. I feel like communication seems to be a theme, even with Jeff and what he was talking about, and you know, all the relationship building. And I was happy to see that Councillor Cornish is meeting with his local residents to talk about what their concerns are. I've been really interested in what Councillor Rodas is putting on Facebook around what's going on or what her take on things are. I've been learning about all these business things that are going on in town that I normally wouldn't hear about, especially as a rural resident. And I find these things are really positive, that there's a lot of interaction. And in my former life, when I used to work, before I was retired, I used to work for a while in customer service satisfaction. And one of the things that's really critical to customer satisfaction and to public engagement and trust in government is that communication, and people who feel like they're being listened to and who feel like you want to hear what they have to say, they'll trust in government that much more. So I think that what's happening is really good. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, Chandra. Okay. Any more comments from the public? Okay. No. First of all, I'd like to say that the comment period that was worked out well tonight. I mean, those things are very well noted and very well ordered, and I appreciate your guys' feedback, and that can also takes play in when we take these votes when we come up here right after your comment period stops, just to show that, so that, you know, you're heard and listened to. So thank you. Okay. So I need a mover and seconder to move into the departmental information reports.
So moved.
Councillor Harding, Councillor Eastman, and we'll start with the Deputy CAO, please. Protective Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a whole lot to comment on this month as far as protective services go. Just to note that I guess fire season has started. I know there's a lot of concern out there about the amount of timber that's down as a result of the storms we had this year. At this point, DNR doesn't really consider that fuel available. What that means is well, it hasn't really dried out yet, so it's not a big concern right now. For the spring season. Now, when the summer season and fall season rolls around in July, August, September, it will be more of a concern then. But right now, it's just the tall grasses and the brush that are of concern. So I know I hear a lot of talk about the timber, and it will become available as fuel as the year goes along. And hopefully it rots before it ever catches on fire. So that, I don't really have a whole lot of other things to mention as far as protective services go, but I would take any questions of council if they wanted to ask before we move on to infrastructure.
Councilor Greenlaw?
Yeah, I just wonder if you might be able to give everybody a little bit of an explanation on the fire underwriters issues and what you're talking about as far as people are seeing their insurance rates go up, and explain that.
I'm getting a few calls, and I mean, this isn't new. We've gotten calls for a number of years related to the fire underwriters surveys. And basically, they look at, when you apply for insurance, they look at where you live, and then they match you up to the closest fire station, or the fire station that is not necessarily the closest, but the one that is your region, your fire service region for which you live in. So we have a lot of residents out in the Western Charlotte ward that live very close to the St. Stephen station, yet they're covered by the Western Charlotte Fire Department. So their insurance rates reflect that. So part of what I'm undertaking to do is to look at those things, response times and whatnot, and come up with a plan to change the boundaries to make them more sensible as far as response time and insurance underwriter rates. I'm making some pretty good progress with it. It is a large undertaking when you look at the number of fire departments that go around the municipal district of St. Stephen and the number of roads that there are. So each one of those roads is put into a matrix, and in order to make those changes, you got to physically go in and manipulate the matrix. So I've got a bunch of maps and trying to figure out what roads are within this perimeter, and then make sure that they're being assigned to what I think would be the best fire department to do the job. So I'm making good progress. Once I get it to a point where I think it's something we can work with, and I'll bring that forward to the CAO, and we'll reach out to our neighbors and present it to them, and hopefully they'll agree, and then we can take the next steps to get it into place.
I'll just do a little quick follow. If they were to agree, that also helps the outside of our district too, with they'd be in the same predicament.
Yes.
They could be closer to our fire hall and can utilize that in your adjustment.
Well, you bring up a good point there, because in some cases I would propose that we would take on new area, but in other cases I propose that we're not the right fire department, and that we would give that back or to somebody else that are closer. And in some cases the reality is you're just too far from a fire station, so there's really nothing that we can do as far as your insurance, but we can select the appropriate fire department as far as response time. And there's situations where we're running 30 kilometers and there's a fire department that's 10 kilometers away. So I want to try and fix those things, because previously the boundaries, a lot of the determination on boundaries was tax based. How do we've got a station here now, we got to fund it. So you just start moving lines until you got enough money, and that worked as far as funding it, but doesn't necessarily work as far as response times. So we're going to try and correct that.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
I was just wondering, you mentioned the students taking courses through NBCC. Are there courses that are always available, or?
The Fundy Firefighters Association, that's the group that we're part of. There's 9 associations in the province. We receive funding basically from the Office of the Fire Marshals and NBCC. NBCC is contracted to deliver the service, and then they hire people like me to instruct. We put on every year a certain number of courses. So you can't just call in at any time and say, I want to take that course. You got to get on it when it's available. And not every course we put on every year. So there are some that we do every year, and then others when demand is there. Of course, if you're just coming out of high school and you think maybe you want to be a firefighter, that you can go to the Miramichi or Allen College or some of those places and go take what we call pre-entry training and do the whole thing. 6 months or a year, you can come out. But the courses I'm talking about are for established firefighters that are on the job, just to train. I hope I answered your question.
Councilor Wright?
Thank you. Sean, going back to the fire underwriter survey, just because it can sound like a lot of bureaucratic stuff, but it's also in the citizens' best interest, because it's my understanding that with those lines that have been drawn for the fire underwriter survey, that not only insurance is using, but does dispatch use those to dispatch? So, and then I have one follow-up question after.
Dispatching has nothing to do with the fire underwriter maps. They're two totally separate things. Though I am looking at them because they should overlap. The fire underwriters uses a perimeter of this, and logically dispatch would as well. So they're unrelated, but at the same time related.
And one final question. And when those changes that you suggest are made, you mentioned going to other municipalities and talking to the CAO. Does that decision rest with the municipalities, or does it go back to the province for approval?
Well, for sure, there will have to be approval. Fire Marshal's Office, NB 911, ELG, because we have St. Andrews, Eastern Charlotte, St. Stephen, and then ELG that all border us. So yes, we'll build the plan. They'll buy in, hopefully. If not, then we'll make some changes. But eventually, yes, the province will have to come in and say, okay, and then NB 911 will check our work and make sure it makes sense. And it's really huge. I've been working on it for a while, and then if you walk away from it and then come back, it takes a little while. Where was I? But I'm making good progress, I think.
Thank you.
Councilor Rodas?
I just have a question about fire prevention, just with the upcoming summer. I know that across Canada they've been talking about potential increase of forest fires, so I didn't know if that would be something that MDSS should look into for this region of New Brunswick, if that's a concern. And also, I know some people in the rural areas talk about extending their tree line out away from their house. Is that something that you feel we should be looking into or recommending for some citizens, just based on what's coming out across other areas of Canada?
Yes, I do. There are some communities that have gotten out, and they're actively promoting the Fire Smart program. That's not a new program, but it's one that the province is just starting to bring on board and putting some resources to. So anybody that I speak to that ask questions like that, that's what I would refer them to. If you Google Fire Smart, it'll take you right into this program, and it talks about just that, removing fuels that are close to your home, trees. They talk about, instead of having a lawn, maybe use like stone or things like that, at least in close to your home. So yeah, if anybody asks, and for anybody that's listening, Fire Smart is the education platform that talks about that, and at some point maybe I'll get that on our website. But I have been pushing that to people that ask.
Okay, thank you, Sean. For A, let's go to B.
All right.
Infrastructure.
Well, the same. I don't have a whole lot to add to the monthly report. As with typical months, Mr. Beach has given a good outline of what each of the departments have done. We've got a few things that are in there that I've been able to nail down this week with respect to the lagoon, and we've been working on sidewalk plans. We are transitioning now even harder since the time of the writing of this report to the summer mode from the winter mode. That's going good, so hopefully really soon we'll be able to start spreading hot asphalt instead of cold patch. I really don't want to go buy another load of cold patch because it's, well, you see how effective it is, not very.
So we'll save our money for hot patch, and hopefully that'll happen real soon.
That will be appreciated by many. Thank you. Councillor Heislip?
Just had a comment on the sanding and salting. I think it was very successful putting salt on this year rather than the sand. By lack of comments that I've had, I don't know if any other councillors have had any comments, but of course I haven't had any positive ones that it's great this year, but I haven't had those negative ones that, there's clouds of dust going behind their cars and it's covering their house. So I think that's pretty successful this year. And
I would agree. A little bit of luck too, right? The weather has cooperated. There was a few storms where Dave's like, I got to put sand on. I'm like, just hold off just a little longer, and then the temperature would change, and we'd be okay. Now, no guarantees that'll happen ongoing, but I agree. I'm hopeful that the cleanup will go quicker. There's not as much dust. Lots of cold patch laying in the streets, so it'll have to be swept up, and of course, there's debris that comes from the runoff and whatnot. So we've still got to clean the streets, but overall, I agree. I think it was a success.
Councillor Otis?
These are just the general public questions. One, I know you gave me the answer via email, but if you could just explain to the public why it's taking some time downtown for the waterfront trail in terms of weather, like you have to wait for the weather, just that piece. And second, the piece about the one question, sorry. That's more of a...
Yeah, well, first it was the stability of the trail. We've got to bring in heavy equipment. It's going to require an excavator to fix that. We've got to let it dry up, otherwise we're going to cause more damage than we're going to fix. And I'm not totally convinced we're not going to cause damage regardless. It's going to be a touchy thing to put an excavator down there on that new pavement, and we're going to have to bring in mats and to walk the excavator down on there and not break it all up. We're currently getting quotes to get that work done, but the estimates are it's going to be about 30 tons of stone in order to do that. So that's 15 or 20, probably 20 truckloads of material that'll have to go down in there. So it is an undertaking, and hopefully it will fix the problem. But we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, thanks. That's always helpful because I think people passing it just saying, oh, they could come down here and throw a couple loads of gravel and it will be fixed. So thanks for explaining in depth how much work that actually is. Second, I know I can't remember the firm who did the assessment on the roads, but if you could just give us clarity on that report that was given some time ago. I think it was Gemtech maybe had an assessment of our roads, or it's not Gemtech, sorry. You can give clarity on how we select our roads. That's just a general public question I get all the time.
We do have a firm contracted to do that, but it hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen in the coming weeks. We had to wait for everything to stabilize, the frost to come out, and for everything to settle back to summer conditions. I think tentatively it's in the second week of May that they're coming to do that study, and it'll take a couple weeks for them to do it, and then probably a couple months for them to come back with the results. So we'll have the information to use for next year, basically.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Sean. Let's go. Oh, sorry. Councillor Harding.
Thank you. Have we gone through the bylaw?
Yes.
We did, but go ahead.
I want to go, of course, to number 2 with regard to the homeless, which in my opinion is the biggest problem that we have in our town. Just before I left tonight, I got a call, and I was out grocery shopping this morning. I got 4 calls before I got back home. We have a serious problem. I don't know what we're going to do about it. Within a couple of days, we're not going to have a shelter, so we're going to have more people on the street. And is there any way that we can contact the provincial government to see if there's any sort of reprise for these people? to put them somewhere, to do something to them. I mean, it is going to be god-awful. Thank you, Your Worship.
So I can comment on that some. I mean, I don't know much to tell you, but I was talking to our Minister Green today, and the minister is letting us know that they're working on it, and yeah, that's nothing ironed out though. So I guess we got to wait. But they do know that day is coming very, very shortly. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Just on that point too, probably parallel to your conversations with the minister, I have a call at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning with the deputy minister to discuss, the strategy and what they're working on. So I can certainly, pass along the concerns during that chat with Mr. Mahan and see where it goes.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Councilor Harding. Councilor Eastman.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I've also had a couple of individuals talk to me that the homeless now are starting to move. Of course, it's getting warmer out. And the dog park area is another issue. And to tie in with Sean, as it gets cold at nighttime, they're going to light fires. So, there it is.
Okay. Councilor Otis.
I think this issue is a very complex one, and I think it's important to remember that there's evidence out there and strategies that have worked in the past. So this is something that I wish that we had planned for. We need to plan for encampment sites. We need to plan for people to tent. We need to plan for shelter, plan for supportive housing, plan for affordable housing, and plan for mixed residential. That's what they do everywhere else in Canada. It's not a one solution fix where you just build an apartment building and it goes away. You can't just put people in one particular center. It's way more complex than that. So I just think we have to be realistic, and when we have nonprofits in this community who are being funded by the provincial government to do the work, we need to support them outwardly and openly as council, especially when we call an emergency order about this issue, and we need to treat it like an emergency, not just call an order and back down on it.
I will make one more comment. Your councilors to speak through the mayor's desk, please, and not to councilor to councilor. This is not a debate, and just know that there is work going on those things, and there's not a one size fits all for sure. I agree, but anyway, okay. Southwest Service or New Brunswick Service Commission MD Planning Report. Zan?
So Alex is in the Dominican Republic right now on an actual vacation that he really does deserve. And I tried to figure out the thing to get the report, and I could not do it. So obviously there's a few planning issues that I'm here to talk about, but I don't have a report. But if there are questions, I will do my best to answer them.
I'll get that onto the rezoning thing. No, never mind.
I guess you're getting off the hook.
Yeah, that's why your agenda says no report under planning. So we weren't trying to stick to Andrew with it.
Andrew, thank you. And I'm seriously, though, thank you for everything you are doing, though. There's a lot you're doing there, and I appreciate it very much. Besides there's not being a report, but we know what you're up to. Thanks. Community service report. Mr. Sumner.
Thank you, Worship. Hopefully my report's on there too, and you all got it. So, just wanted to expand on what the Chief mentioned. We were also waiting for the provincial approval for the Wawa permit that came through. So we are waiting on that. We also hopefully getting some funding. I reached out today before council just to get a decision, hopefully from Trans-Canada Trail. They should have something for us next week. Hopefully it's positive. I've also reached out through Sherry at the Coastal Link Trail just to see if they have anything, and waiting on a response from that. So as again, I'll let you know if and when we get some funding, but we keep on trying different ways to help us out. So moving on, we got I mentioned last month the second compressor failed at the GCC. As you'll see in Jeremy's report, that everything is working as it planned now. We got the report back from the technicians that installed the compressor, so I gave that to Frank to start the process for the insurance claim, so hopefully that will bring good news as well. Just a couple of items inside the GCC. We're taking the ice out this week, in the next week or so, just to prepare for the busy spring that's coming up. As you'll see in Michelle's report, we've got the provincial cheer competition, which is a great asset to have. The home and recreation show. We've got the circus coming in May. We've obviously we'll have the grad as well, which we always collaborate with the high school on. So even though hockey season is done, and I want to thank the team that we have here, whether it's they're putting the ice in or they're feeding families with or letting them have a drink at the Irishman game or anything like that. We appreciate everything that they do, and we got through a good season. And I think we saw with some positives. We had the Day of Champions, which was with minor hockey. We had really good Irishman playoffs as well, and they brought the banner home. So very very good season, and we now move into a just as busy a kind of spring season as well. Michelle and her team are also working on the outdoor vendor market, which we're starting in June. The flea market. There's the yard sale and the trunk sale going on in town. Just a PSA for everyone that we've got the spring cleanup coming in on May 21st, which is just after the long weekend in May. Everyone should have got flyers in their water bills. If they haven't got the water bills already, there'll be a reminder in there. And yeah, we're busy. We've got a collaboration going on with the town of St Andrews. We're having some training in May, as both communities have seen some minor incidents, whether it's at hockey games or within their town halls, and so we're getting some instruction from some security companies just to help us with de-escalation and minor incidents and things like that. So that's a positive thing. And just on a sad note, I just wanted to send condolences to the family of Reed Haley, because Reed passed away last week, and he was a great volunteer for the community, especially at the tennis courts in Milltown, where he spent countless hours. He will be missed. He put the first lot of nets up this year, and he was playing tennis, and he was a well-known and well-liked member of the community.
Thank you for those words, Kev. We appreciate that on behalf of our town. I also like to give my gratitude to your department, because as you're listing off your to-do things, you're doing a trade show that was done by groups of volunteers, but now your team is doing that. You're doing the fall fair, or not fall fair, sorry, the farmers market. That's a lot of things added to your plate, and you just continue going on. And duly noted too that the trade show's full. You sold every lot too, so hats off to you and your group.
Could also thank Councillor Greenlaw and the team who came out, and all the community that supported the solar eclipse dance party, which was on April the 8th. It was very well attended, and it went down very well. And it was. We might not be around for the next one, but it was a great event.
You were dancing where you went?
Give it up free stuff.
Yep. Councillor Rhodes.
I just wanted to share, I had somebody who was at a hockey game who said that somebody who was in the wheelchair accessible area in a wheelchair was moved by security to sell alcohol in that zone. And I'm wondering if that's because that's really the only spot at the top of the stairs when you come up. It seems like that's probably the only spot where there's enough space to sell alcohol. But I just want to share that information with you, because I think it's really important that anyone who's in a wheelchair or in that wheelchair accessible zone is not asked to move, or definitely not asked to move, by security. And second of all, if we can find another location or support you in that, I'd be happy to figure something out, just so that, and I know it's complicated to sell it in different areas and there might not be a lot of space. I know how busy those hockey games are, but I just wanted to share that on behalf of a few residents who shared it with me.
Yeah, I will pass those comments on to Michelle and her team, and we'll see what we can come up with. That's the first we'd heard of it, so we'll appreciate that. And any kind of concern like that, please let us know, and we'll work with the community.
So, I think what you're going to run into is it's the fire marshal stuff. That's why it's set up where it is, but it's not set up where the wheelchair seats are. But that's here. Yeah. Anyway, like it's there, and this is here. That doesn't make any sense to anyone out there who's watching me right now, so I apologize for that. I'm just doing my visual. But I also, the hockey game was very full, and I think what they're trying to do is keep that, as you're talking about security, is that whole back wall empty, and it just did not work out. They had to end up opening it up later on in the game because there's so many people at this game. So, yes, but duly noted. Oops, sorry. Councilor Islip.
Yeah, I got two questions or want to comment. I noticed in Sean's report that they removed the sign there with the map on it down here. So I'm just wondering if there's anything else is going to be put up, or I see a lot of people looking at that in the summertime, just getting their bearings and where St. Stephen and the Municipal District is. I wasn't sure if you're going to do that. And where do you get maps? That's part of the same question. I'm going to try to do. Where do you get maps? Because I'm stretching it, right?
Yeah,
but I know
yes,
people.
that's
Well, all my neighbors are from. Have moved here from away, and they're volunteering to do Meals on Wheels. And he's looking for a map, and I said, "Gee, I'd go to the Civic or go down here GCC, or I suppose our kiosk will have them after." But yeah, so.
And just to, we did remove that. Thanks again to the chief and his crew for removing that. It was quite out of date. It didn't have the Civic Centre on it, so we felt it was kind of, and we were trying to rejuvenate the front. Just that's why we've also moved the market, just to give the grass a chance to repair itself. So it's kind of do everything in one shot and do that. But yeah, we will have some maps at the kiosk when it opens, and there's also available here as well.
You follow up?
Yeah. Well, it's not really follow up on that. It's about the vendors market. I have a lot of comments and questions online and not online, and people don't like change. I mean, they didn't like it when I moved from out there to the old arena downtown, and I know the reasoning on it, but I mean, maybe you could put the kind of the history. I know that the farmers market board kind of folded. We took over the responsibilities. I know that there's, he said it's a few people on Friday, but there's more than a few people walking across the grass on Fridays, 200 or 300 people or something probably in a day, or a few hundred anyway. I found it was dangerous walking across from the parking lot into that area. It's also more accessible. It probably wheelchair accessible and everything else on the marketplace. There's more connections for plug-ins for power. Is there anything I'm missing here, or is it? And it's going to be. And I see in your report that it's going to be on a trial basis for logistics and everything else. I think you've covered everything there.
I think you've covered everything there. The bathroom's a little closer as well. We have the bathrooms at the library and the Civic Centre. And this isn't a permanent thing. If there are members of the vendors market, the vendors themselves that feel like they want to step up and take this on again, I think that's an option. And we have the plaza that is being newly finished, and it's bringing more events here into that area too. So, but yeah, you covered it pretty well.
All right. Councillor Eastman.
Yeah, Kev, in Michelle's report here, in the additional information, she says canteens no longer open daily, but your lending stuff is open during canteen hours. How's that working?
I believe it's going to be a limited service. We'll certainly post the new hours. Whereas before there was hockey every day. Yeah. There is still some spring hockey, so when that's going on, we'll bring that in, and yeah, we'll post it up, and I'll follow up, and I can report back to council with you on that too.
Councillor Harding?
Thank you. I was unhappy to see the mural taken off the whitewashed over. And I realized that there was a letter that came to council, but I want to thank our mayor for putting out such a wonderful response. So I read his letter, I read the letter that came. It's unfortunate that we had to whitewash over that, but things do change and things do go on. So thank you, Kev. And thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, and thank you for your support, Council. Yeah, I mean, it deserves a little discussion on that. It's you know, a young girl in our community stepped up and wanted to help beautify our downtown. At the time, the weather was against her. The commitment to get it done before weather, they get rushed. It was the platform. I'm not an artist, but the back cement didn't get filled properly. So she did the best she could with that, and I appreciate that. And I mean, I made it very clear in the letter too. So, and thank you. Okay, holy Jim. Okay, so let's go on to Treasurer's report. Money.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. As usual, you see the staff activity on the first section of the report, showing the regular and special projects that we're working on right now. The only thing I guess maybe I'll point out in this one, and Kev mentioned this earlier, the water and sewer bills, they were mailed out today. So those that get those should be receiving those pretty soon. They also include a spring yard cleanup insert as well with them. I want to mention one thing that we're doing with the utility department is we're doing a project. I call it remote water meter reading project, but it's really electronic water meter reading project. And what it is to try to reduce the amount of manual entries that we have to do into our accounting system for the water meter reading. So in the past, the reader would go out and he would go to each meter in town, he would write down the reading, then he would bring the books in and we would enter them manually into our accounting package. So what we're doing now with the utility department is they're using the meter reading guns, and these guns, there's two ways they can be entered. They can be entered, I understand, by just tapping on the meters that we have now with new meters, or they can be entered manually, and they're eventually moving it so they're all being done just by tapping on the meters, so it's a lot faster for them to enter the meter readings. And then when they bring them in, we just download them into our accounting system, so it saves some time that way. I was talking to the staff there today, and when we started, there was a lot of bugs in it, for sure, when you're starting something new like this. But with each quarter that we do, it's getting a little bit better, and the bugs are getting out of it. So, so I think that'll be a great project once it's up and running completely. Moving over to the statement of revenues and expenditures, you'll see the budget and the 2 months ending February 29th. For the general operating fund, February, of course, is about 16% of the year, and as usual, the expenses and revenues, they don't always come through exactly based on the month that we have there, but you'll see in the general operating fund at the end of February, it shows a surplus right now of $543,686, and in February for the water and sewer fund, shows a deficit of $234,870, and that should switch over to a surplus for the March statements when the quarterly bills show up inside the statement of revenue and expenditures for the water and sewer operating fund. And finally, as far as the check register, you'll see a listing for the check register for the month of March 2024, showing paid bills in the amount of a little bit over $1.4 million. That's it. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Councilor Greenlaw?
I just had one there. On the last page, I still see Service New Brunswick paying for collection of utility payments. I thought we had kind of put that to bed. Is this just residual? Very last page.
Yes, the service in Brunswick ended, I believe, at the end of March. So this should be the last one.
Okay, thanks, Tim. All right, next up, Future St. Stephen Economic Development Report. Mr. Barham.
Thank you. Just comment on the first one there, the Bud Avenue Hotel land. When I wrote this last week, it was about to come out. It has come out, as you would all know by now. I'm talking to a couple of potential bidders. The big concern is obviously the pad. We knew that would be a huge question mark, and the receiver decided not to put in any statement about that and to leave people to just decide whether they felt it was either an asset or a liability. I want to throw this out, if it's okay, just for maybe the town should consider paying an engineer to take a look at the pad and put that to bed, because I know we're all scared that some dreamer is going to come along and purchase the land thinking that the pad is great and then discover it isn't, and that the bill to remove it is astronomical, and then we're starting another very long unhappy procedure. So if we could, maybe that's unavoidable, but perhaps investing in an engineer's report that we can then make public, it might help.
Not a lawyer, but I don't think we could do one when we don't own the property, but that's just me. But anyway, that would be something we could do a committee of the whole too as well. Oh.
Just based on that, I do not think that we should get into doing any study on that pad, because it's, again, it's a liability to us if we happen to miss something, whether it's a water pipe or breaking or whatever the electrical systems are conduit for it. I think we should stay away from it. In past experience, if you're going in to buy anything like land or buildings, you would do your own assessments, and that is onto your liability, whether you purchase it or put a bid on it or whatever. So I think we should stay well away from that, because we do not own it, and I don't think we should be involved in doing any studies on it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think we can do better and just stop talking about it. All right. Thanks, though. Oh, you got any more in your report? Have you finished your report? Okay. Councilor Rodas.
I disagree. I think it's a pretty big conversation, so I'm actually more comfortable with considering how we could be supportive to developers in any way and encourage somebody making an informed decision on whether or not they want to go forward. I know that sometimes in real estate, as you said, it's on the buyer to, have an inspection done, but sometimes there are times where the property owner or potentially the town, that we don't specifically own that lot, but we do have interest in that lot, that if we could mitigate that risk and provide that as is, where is to the person who's interested. I mean, same thing. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how that would work, but I do have a real problem with just kind of sitting and letting it laissez-faire be. I think whatever we can do to encourage developers to want to buy that property in an informed way would be a benefit to the town. So I thank you, Jeremy, for just bringing it forward. It's just something we can talk about and consider. But I definitely think we should be open to all aspects here, because the last thing we want is for somebody to buy it, not be able to have the funds to remove it, and sit on it for another 12 years.
Well, the fact of the matter is, something bid at the time we got it studied, it would be, the bid would be done. I mean, we should have been talking about this.
Yeah, we should have.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, but.
I was just, yeah, I mean, I guess there's potential for it to be rushed through, but I'm not a lawyer either, obviously, but I wonder whether the liability could be pushed onto the person that does the assessment. So if we were to get Dillon Consulting to come in. I assume liability could be pushed onto them, but I don't know that for sure. I did talk to a developer today, and they wanted to know whether the town had skin in the game and how serious they were, and they felt like this would be an indication that the town was serious about being very interested in who takes the piece of land. So I'm just throwing that out there as well. How do we demonstrate that we've got skin in the game and that we really care? But at the end of the day, we have very little control, and that's the biggest issue.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Otis?
Yeah, I also see here that there's an updated proposal for the site beside the Beacon for 108 units. Could you just speak a little bit more to, I would just love you to speak a little bit more to each part of your report so people can hear it publicly. I know they can read it online, but if they're watching right now, then they can just get a little brief update on each part, especially the transportation, the launch of Kerry on May 1st. That's really exciting.
So the proposals, I believe you're dealing with in the closed session, but for the public, it's encouraging that we have exciting proposals to put before council. So that's great news. The rideshare service is as it says, is on track, and I reiterate, as I said last time, that it is an experiment. So everybody needs to hold their breath somewhat to see if we can make it work, but we are trying, and I think that counts for a lot. The Welcome St. Stephen, we feel like an active part of economic development is helping to make St. Stephen a place where people want to live and want to raise families, want to stay. And like other places in New Brunswick, it's not an exclusive problem to us by any means, but people do come here and then leave again. And we want to minimize that flow through and somehow make this a community where people want to stay, so that when newcomers come, they find a community and a place that feels like a new home. And that is really hard. I've done it. I know what it's like, and I speak the language. It was hard for me. So if you don't speak the language, it can just be really, really hard to feel, especially if you've come from your home country. And so this is our way of trying to help that happen. And we're always open to suggestions on how to make that program better, or think of new ways to help people feel welcome here, because that's really vital. We feel like communication from the leaders of the town is super important, and that's come up a few times, and it's something that Future St. Stephen would love to help with as well. And then the business scan, we're always looking for opportunities to open up the town to new business, and it can be quite hard. There's a lot you don't have control over. You have to wait for entrepreneurs to come along and say, hey, I'm going to do that. But we're always actively looking for gaps, and then ways that we can try and fill those gaps, or encourage other people to try and fill those gaps. And I think regionally, with the new RSC mandate, they're looking now regionally at that and saying, well, what assets do we have here, and then what gaps do we have? And so an old report that I did actually a few years ago, they've asked me to update that, and that sounded like a good idea. And also I'll help them a little bit regionally, because St. Stephen is such a critical piece in the regional economic situation that I'm going to help them sort of see how we are positioned in the regional context with Charlene from the Regional Service Commission. And we'll see, as I say, you can't make things happen, but you can definitely pave the way. And I think that's what we see the mandate of the Development Board is to pave the way for new businesses and make sure that when they do consider starting here, they get an easy route in. And so that's what I'm trying to do there. Thanks.
Councillor Wright.
just want to put a plug in here. You're talking about making people feel welcome. I want to put a plug in for the Charlotte County Multicultural Association. If anybody hasn't been pointed their direction, it's a great place to point newcomers. I'm acquainted with several people who've come here from other countries, and that organization has been an amazing blessing to them, giving them furnishings, household items to set up, people who come with absolutely nothing. And they're just a great way to help people integrate as well. So a plug for the Charlotte County Multicultural. Your organization do.
Thank you. I second that plug. And at the bottom of our newcomer form, it says, "Can we send your information to the Multicultural Association?" So that way we're playing on the same team, and we're both meeting with the same people.
Yeah, that discussion was brought up about the Multicultural Association, but the immigration, it was the one that we're lacking, and then that's kind of, I think, what you're alluding to. We got to help them all, but that definitely is supporting us. Councillor Greenlaw?
Yeah, just on the housing, maybe you could explain how important these things are as far as growth in this community, because when you're looking at, limestone boats, for instance, right? My understanding is they're having some difficulty with finding, housing for some of their newer employees. So when you expect a business to come into this, community, they have to have housing for their employees. So this 108 units, this 50 units is essential to us being able to put that, building block in and attract more businesses here. So I think it's great that that's seeing some progress.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a very good point. And, I don't get a lot of chance to sort of sell the idea to you. I would love to in just a couple of sentences. Thank you very much for bringing that up. When we're looking at economic development, it's always a long-term play, and that can be, it's a strategic thing, isn't it? And we're looking at 5 to 10 years down the road and trying to position ourselves now to be in a healthy position in 5 to 10 years. And as you mentioned, Limestone Boats is one company that wants to bring up to 200 people to town. And there's another one that we're working with that would match that. So looking at the potential of 200 to 400 people moving to town, we don't have enough apartments right now to accommodate the people we've got right now. We've got people leaving because they can't find a place to live here, and which is just dire in terms of economic health. We need to be growing. If we're not growing, we're shrinking, and statistically we've seen ourselves shrink, and we're in this amazing period right now where people are organically coming to town. We did a lot of work trying to grow the town and did a massive marketing strategy over 6 or 7 years, which we only just stopped during COVID because COVID sort of took over and people started to come here organically. But we hear all the time of people that can't find a place and just move on. So trouble is, it takes many years to build more units. So it is incredible that we've got these 2 in the pipeline now, but we're looking at least 3 to 4 years for those to get built. And so, ideally we would have started 5 years ago, but we didn't know. Who knew that this was going to happen?
So the buy-in. The buy-in wasn't there.
It was hard to see, but now we can see it. And so they're like, oh, wow, we need more units, and we need more residential units, and we're behind the ball. So, yeah, it can be hard to think about, say, giving land away to these developers or giving them any kind of incentive. But boy, oh boy, it's just about the best investment that the town could make is in incentivizing these developers to build buildings. There's not many people that can do it. If we could build apartment buildings, we would. But you need deep pockets. You need to be well financed. You need the experience, and there are so many hoops to jump through to build apartment buildings. It is unbelievable, and so we need to highly value the people that are able to contribute that to our community and are interested in doing it here at this point, because we put an RFP out for the land beside the beacon before and got no applicants. Now we've got a couple of interested parties who are saying we'll do it, and this is fantastic news for the town. No, I'm not saying we have to agree to these things, but we should all be aware of the incredible value of having these people come here and in your words, Mayor McEachran, we sort of lay out the red carpet, as it were, in that we need to facilitate as much as we can these guys and help them along the road to solving our problem for us.
The red carpet was a little easier back in the day, but now we're competing with every other municipality in this country, well, province, for at least, for lack of better words, and the groundwork's changed. It has.
On to the next municipality if they don't find an easy route in. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Councillor Harding.
Thank you, Your Worship. I see under housing in the last bullet, Starshine properties are going to come up next month. Are you doing a deep dive into Sunshine properties? Because that is another call that I get about all the time. I just tell them to follow the money. I don't know what you're saying or who you're dealing with, or if you're dealing with an investigative reporter. I don't know, but quite possibly you should be, or somebody should be, because I think that's one of the major problems with the homeless situation. So if you would do that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
I have done a deep dive, yes, and I know, I very much understand the situation, and maybe it's been discussed here before, I'm not sure, but there's little you can do with private land, but we're certainly investigating those options. The update is a situation that is unfolding with regard to those properties, and we will know more in a month. At that point, then it will be Plan B, and we don't know what that plan would be at this point.
I'll be waiting.
Yes, thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, so I had a mover and seconder to move into the departmental reports. You've all heard them. Did I get a? Yeah, I had a mover and seconder. So, and there's no more questions. All those in favor? Accepting the reports. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And thank you, department heads. Next up, bylaws. I need a mover and seconder for bylaw number 523-3. Councillor Eastman, Councillor Heislip. A bylaw to amend the bylaw 05-23 being the council procedure bylaw, second and third readings. Sorry? Oh, of course I do. Okay. So let's.
I'm going to have Celeste change the heading for you.
Yes. Yeah, just separate them out. So I'll just do the second reading first. The bylaw number 5-23-3, a bylaw to amend bylaw 05-23, being the council procedure bylaw, be given its second reading by title. I don't. Well, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, Councillor Wright, Deputy Mayor. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And I'll do the third reading. Mover and seconder for the third reading. Councillor Harding. Councillor Eastman. The bylaw number 05-23-3, a bylaw to amend bylaw 05-23, being the council procedure bylaw, be given its third and final reading by title only. Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. I need a mover and seconder for bylaw Z-3-03. Deputy Mayor Wheaton. Councillor Greenlaw. Bylaw to amend zoning bylaw Z-3. The bylaw, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z-3, being a zoning bylaw for the town of St. Stephen, be given its first reading by title, and that May 29th, 2024, be the date set for the public hearing, and the draft bylaw be forwarded to the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee, PRAC, in brackets, requesting their written views be provided by May 16th, 2024. Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, new business, request for decisions, purchasing card policy. Can I have a mover and seconder for the purchasing card policy? So moved. Councilor Harding? Second. Councilor Rodas. That council approves the purchasing card policy as presented. Oh, am I going to read all that?
You don't need to read a policy into the record.
Okay, good. Any questions on that policy? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Delegation of authority to waive interest charges. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Wright, Councilor Heislip. That the council delegates the authority to waive the interest charges as per item 7 on the revised Schedule A to the bylaw number W-1, a bylaw respecting water and sewer rates and charges, in brackets, enacted on January 31st, 2024, as follows. 1 cent to $500. Director of Corporate Services. $500 and 1 penny to $1,000. Chief Administrative Officer. Over 1,000, Municipal District of Council. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Mover and seconder for the May Committee of the Whole meeting date change. Councilor Eastman. Councilor Harding. That the Committee of the Whole meeting date scheduled for Wednesday, May 8th, 2024 be changed to Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. Questions? Just for clarity, that's been adjusted because of there's a big event going on here that evening, so it'll be quite loud and hopefully full of people. So anyway, if there's no more questions, I'll take all those in favor. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Next up, mover and seconder for Sharps Disposal Program. Okay, Councilor Eastman, Councilor Rodas. That council agree in principle to the installation of used needle receptacles in the key locations in the municipality, and that the mayor follow up with our MLA with respect to funding availability to support such a program. And further, that administration be directed to prepare a draft program brief for consideration at the May Committee of the Whole meeting. Question?
This is just in principle. We're going to discuss this Committee of the Whole, so we'll iron out concerns that we've heard here tonight and everything else.
You're giving me an hour to go talk to our MLA and the team to get,
clear in public. Okay, thank you.
And of course, we heard our comments from this evening. You can take all that into evaluation. And yeah, like I said, I totally get that. It's got to be thought out, and then that's what we're doing here. There's democracy at play here. All right. Good question?
Yeah, so what we'll be doing is the recommended steps as part of this, decision-making, because there's recommendations of what the next steps are in the report, so that's what we're actually adopting here. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So all those in favor to get this ball rolling? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Mover and seconder for the St. Stephen Rural Cemetery grant request. Councilor Greenlaw? Is that Councilor Harding? Yep. That council approve a community grant for the St. Stephen Rural Cemetery in the amount of $3,000. Question? Okay.
Just some information.
Okay, clarity, yep.
To inform your debate. So Mr. Tozer came to me this afternoon to make sure that we knew that the way the count for your community grants currently sits, there's $897. $95, I was close, that is unallocated at this time. However, we did also identify that there's currently a scheduled draw on that account for $6,600 relating to insurance for the Charlotte County Museum, which they're no longer insurable under our policy, and they're going to be coming off. So there'll be a plus and minus in that account as we get things sorted out with the insurance company. We're expecting a rebate that would feed back into there. Not sure the value of that potential rebate. That being said, I mean, for the overdraw, we'd be able to find that if council decides that this is funding you want to provide. Just know that it's possible that at a future financial report, that account may be shown as being overdrawn slightly due to the decision. So which one? Make sure you knew where you were sitting before you had your debate.
Councilor Wright.
I was just going to ask, we adopted a grants policy, I believe, or did we just discuss it?
Yes.
The grants policy is still getting its final amendments. It'll be brought at the next committee of the whole meeting. What we had done previously was said that the applications that came in prior to the adoption of the grant policy would be dealt with in the same manner they had historically been done, because applying new rules after the fact wasn't fair to any of the applicants. So that's why it's here today for a potential approval, which is how it would have historically done, just come straight to council with not really many criteria around it for consideration and approval.
I know what your question is going to be, so go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Okay. It seems to me that we used to do this before the amalgamation, but I think we had a discussion about it. Since the amalgamation, there's a lot of cemeteries that are involved. No.
Nobody came back with it. I didn't.
Through the chair.
No, I'm just wondering, they have made a request, but I don't know if we were waiting for other requests from other cemeteries, or is I don't know, my memory's not very good.
Mr. Mayor?
Hold on. Did you get a comment on that, Jeff?
I was just going to try to respond, Your Worship. So yes, that it was previously tabled by council for a more robust look at the cemeteries situation and number out there. That, in all honesty, hasn't been conducted. It hasn't made it to the top of the priority list as of yet. I did a quick review, just even on through Google Maps and Google Earth, just of cemeteries in the area, and there's a large number of them that come up. How many of them are active versus historical? There's another. It's part of the investigation that would have to be done. But I think the reason that I think the councillor that did ask for this to be brought back to the table was because it's been sitting for too long on our wait and see list, which I think was a very fair comment, which is why we brought it back when we did. So I think, but yeah, there's going to be a bigger discussion that has to be had around cemeteries and our role. We don't have a legislated role in the province of New Brunswick. The regulations on the operations of cemeteries is exceptionally lax compared to other jurisdictions, and how they operate and whatnot. So it's a complex issue. Obviously, like many of the things we have in our communities, there's a lot of volunteers and things doing a lot of hard work to try and keep things going and keep these services available in our community. So, but that's why we brought it back when we did, because it has been sitting for a long time. And much like the other grants, we didn't want it hanging in limbo for any longer than it has to be.
So just a little more clarity. That last line you're saying, you're saying put this to bed, don't let it lay in limbo. Is that what you're meaning? Is that what you meant? Or
I don't want to speak on behalf of the council member that asked for it to be brought back to the table, but my understanding is that the proponent reached out again as their fiscal year end has been being sorted out, and wondering where the status of their request from quite a long time ago, from last year actually, was sitting with us, and it seems like a fair question at this point. So that's why it's back for debate.
Yeah. Please.
I was just going to make my comment that this request, I do remember it coming when we were early as a new council. And if it was something that was historically done by the town of St. Stephen, I personally would be comfortable with considering a vote on it at the wish of council tonight. And then any further requests would come in under a new policy once that's adopted, whatever shape that may take.
There we go. Councilor Otis.
I agree with Councilor Wright there. I was thinking we could also consider I know that there's been a lot of wind damage there, and there's a high number of trees that have fallen down. So I think for them, normally operationally they may have some things on their plate, but this year especially, I think it's been pretty treacherous. So I would be comfortable as well, just in light of this kind of sitting for this long, moving forward, and then from here on out, that will give us time to discuss at committee of the whole and then move forward. But I think $3,000, in consideration of the multiple windstorms we've had, there's a lot of historic, beautiful pines in there, and I would love to see them be able to clean it up. So I'm comfortable with that as well.
Councilor Hyslop.
To me, I have a couple of questions there. I'll have a follow-up question. I'll just, what was the clarification on the return from the insurance from the Charlotte County Museum? Could you just go over that again so I can get it?
So the Charlotte County Museum, we do not have an insurable interest in. So they are not eligible for insurance under our policy. And we've asked them to source their own so that we can remove them from our policy. We expect that once that removal happens, we will get a rebate of some kind on our policy fees that would be credited back into our community grants fund. So that's kind of where we're coming at. We don't know the value of that yet. I mean, it's we're hoping that it'll be significant given that we're early in the year, but it's hard to say until we get it. But like I say, if this account happens to be slightly over its budget number because of decisions you folks have made around this table, surely I would expect that you would understand that when we brought your financial report. And we could there are other locations in the budget that we could probably find that overage, as far as whether that's from the civic relations line or some other spot that we could make sure that we balanced out in the end. But that's kind of where we're at. My hope would be that our rebate would be sufficient to cover this. We just don't know that until we get it back from the insurance company.
So yeah, I don't know what the history was on this insurance paid for by the town to the Charlotte County Museum. It must have happened way before my time, and but it's part of our operational budget, I guess, every year, because we barely get anything from the province. We're not like Nova Scotia or any other provinces that they pay for all these small museums, and we don't get much of an operation grant each year. So I was hoping if there's any surplus in there because of our insurance, that we'd be probably applying for a grant to put against our insurance that we'd have to get.
So just for clarity, make sure you say who we is.
Charlotte County Museum. Sorry, I'm on the board for Charlotte County Museum. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes, that's right, Your Worship. So the Charlotte County Museum could apply for an operational grant or a grant to go towards insurance, private insurance that we're looking into, right? If not, we'd be in, I'm not threatening, but we'd be in quite a situation that we may not be able to operate anymore. I just might as well put that out there right now. So.
Your Worship.
Councilor Otis.
Why don't we just table it until next committee of the whole, and then after committee of the whole, we'll have just a better idea, and we could maybe hash out more than one topic around the policy on this. That's just a suggestion. I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry. Oh, whoa. Okay, no, go. Yeah, Councilor Harding. Sorry.
Are we back to the cemetery, or are we staying on the museum? Anyway, I'd like to say that I certainly would approve that grant of $3,000. At one time, Jim Maxwell, who I've been in touch with, he sat right beside me on council for years, and he's been a really, really great person in that cemetery. He has worked for pardon me, forever. And he asked me, and I think I brought it to council once, but anyway, I certainly would approve of that grant. And I think that when I talked to him last, I agree with Councillor Rodas, there is a lot of tree damage. So, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Wright?
I was just going to note that if we table it to committee, then we can't vote on it for another month, and that might cause trouble for their budget. So I'd like to see us make a decision. This, as the date on the request says, it was June 20th, 2023. I'd like to see us make a decision.
Yeah, and I would go back to your first comment before, when you first started. We are going to update the policy so for the community grant fund, which I think is really important, because my biggest fear here, and I can feel it in the room, is setting precedents. Like, I don't want to see a lineup of every cemetery owner coming through that door, and that's not what we're really here for. I don't think that's up to the council, but that'd be a lot of cemeteries from what I'm hearing. And the truth is, that's who we work for up there now. It's just not the town of St. Stephen. So we got to be considerate of that. So I think it's something that we have done before. It could be, and it is, oddly enough, it's because of storms. They had a big storm, and we helped out that one time with in kind and stuff like that. So but I didn't realize that the bank account was dry. But yeah, I guess let's just take a vote, and I would just consider that this isn't setting precedents. We're going to look at the fund, and it's going to affect the whole community funding as a whole. So that's how I'd suggest voting. All right. Any more questions, comments? Here we go. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. And thank you, Jim, out there, if you're... Yes. All right. Mover second to accept the council reports. Be acknowledged and received. Councilor Greenlaw, Councilor Cornish, questions? Sure.
Just a comment that the Maritime Women's Basketball Association is going to be holding games in our town at the high school. There should be all kinds of flyers around on Facebook, and check I think probably links on the town website, I'm not sure, but the world's oldest basketball court, and that council is invited for the mayor's ball. The mayor's ball, or on reception, yeah. On Saturday night if you're available.
Yeah. I got a comment.
Thank you. Councilor Rodas?
Yeah, I also want to mention Lydia's community cleanup. It went fantastic. Your worship was there. The MLA was there. I think some other councilors, Deputy Mayor Wheaton as well, and it was just really, really awesome to see a young girl in our community taking that on, and it went county-wide this year. So she was in Blacks Harbor one day, I think St. Andrews another day, so it's been pretty exciting. And I also just wanted to say, I did go to the Economic Social Inclusion Corporation consultation on poverty reduction, and I want to mention there were some other municipal leaders in the room who are fully on the same page as us. We have all the same struggles right now, and we're all advocating for the same thing, and it was very interesting that the ESIC coordinators of the session, one thing they did say was Charlotte County is the one region that they see more collaboration with nonprofits, businesses, municipalities, residents than any other region in New Brunswick. So that was really awesome. And lastly, if you are a resident, local organization, business, or service provider who brought back some issues around communication with MDSS to me, I did bring it to the council table. I wanted to make that clear and be transparent, and keep them coming. I'm here to listen. Thanks.
Thank you. I have my mover second. All those in favor of accepting the reports? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All righty. I need a mover and seconder to move into closed for, okay, sorry, Councilor Wright, Councilor Eastman, Pursuant to Section 68, Bracket 1, the Local Governments Act, the council moved to close session for the purpose of discussing potential land disposition matter, negotiation of agreement matter, and a financial matter. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, and thank you, everyone.